everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Kayla and it's time to crack into a good book. So today's video is going to be a book haul. Before we get started, leave a book emoji in the comments to let me know that you're here. So now we can get into the other books that I bought for myself. Like I said, this is a long video. So we'll start with thrillers because that's what I have in my hand. So the first one I'll talk about is a YA thriller, and that's 14 Ways to Die by Vincent Ralph. When Jess was 7, her mother was murdered by the Magpie Man. She was the first of his victims, but not the last. 10 years later, the killer is still at large, and Jess applies to appear on an internet reality show in which she'll be filmed once a week for a whole day. All of her social media, every text, and all personal interaction will be seen by viewers. She knows this is her last chance to remind the public of what she's lost and find the vital clue that will lead to her mother's killer. When the show starts airing, she becomes public property, and her life is an open book just waiting to be read. And then she gets some anonymous text messages and begins to realize that the Magpie Man is watching her every move. So I'll admit that I've heard some kind of mixed things about this, but it seems like a really fun premise. I think what really intrigued me with this is just that we've got this kind of social media element and reality show. That seems really intriguing, and also, I do enjoy books about serial killers. I'm gonna kind of go in with middling expectations, I guess, but it just seems like a fun time, and I wanted to check it out. Then we have some adult thrillers, and the first one I'll talk about is Pretty Things by Janelle Brown. So this, I don't know if this is necessarily a traditional thriller. So we have Nina, who kind of once bought into her idea that her fancy liberal arts degree would lead to a fulfilling career. With that dream crash, she's turned to stealing from rich kids in LA, along with her Irish boyfriend. And I guess her mother was the original con artist, hustling to give her daughter a decent childhood despite their wayward life. But when her mom gets sick, Nina puts everything on the line to help her, even if it means running her most audacious, dangerous scam yet. We have Vanessa, who's a privileged young heiress who wanted to make her mark in the world, but instead she becomes an Instagram influencer. Behind this facade is a life marked by tragedy. After a broken engagement, she retreats to her family's sprawling mountain estate. All of our characters' paths collide here on the cold shores of Lake Tahoe, where their intertwined lives give way to a winter of aspiration and desire, duplicity and revenge. So this is really interesting. I really like the setting of being Lake Tahoe. I've been there before, and I think a nice mountainous estate could be really fun, and I don't know if that'll give us any locked room vibes or anything like that, but I think I'm intrigued by the fact that we have a scam artist and also an influencer. Those are both things that I enjoy reading about, and I've heard good things about this book in general, so it was a buy one get one half off deal, and I was like, yeah, I would definitely want to check that out. Next, I have The Night We Burned by SF Kosa. So this came in the September, unplugged book box, and it came with a signed book plate. Dora is a fact checker at an online magazine. She's been out running her secrets, and I guess her colleague decides to pursue a story about a murder in her hometown that's linked to a deadly fire at a cult compound, and so all of Dora's deceptions are suddenly at risk, because if she can't stop the story, her life is on the line. So she basically alters facts to hide her past along the way, and is thrown back into the world that she tried desperately to leave. As her lies pile up, so do the murders, and she realizes she won't be lucky enough to escape twice. So I thought this sounded really interesting, and again, it came in the book box that I get, but I hadn't heard of it before this, but I'm very intrigued by that. These sort of things dealing with cults are pretty interesting, so hopefully this will be a good one. So next we have some sci-fi. So we'll do the adult sci-fi first. So we have Neumann On by Marina J. Lostetter. So this is, I think, told in some vignettes, yeah. Okay, so we have astrophysicist Reggie, who has an idea. He's discovered an anomalous star that appears to defy the laws of physics and proposes the creation of a deep space mission to find out whether the star is a weird natural phenomenon or something more alien. The journey will take eons. In order to maintain the genetic talent of the original crew, this expedition is undertaken by clones. But a clone is not a perfect copy, and each new generation has its own quirks, desires, and neuroses. The society living aboard the 9 ships changes and evolves, but their mission remains the same: to reach this mysterious star to explore its origins and implications. So this seems really intriguing. I'm not sure about the whole vignette storytelling mechanism, but I read The Helm of Midnight by Marina J. Lostetter. Again, I think that was earlier this year. Really loved it, and I've been intrigued by her other new book, Activation Degradation, which is more sci-fi, but I've also just kind of been curious about this sci-fi series. I think it's a trilogy, all sort of told with this vignette system, I guess. So, I don't know, I've heard pretty good things about it, I think, so I'm hoping that I'll enjoy it. Next we have The Fold by Peter Clines. So I think Oh, I think I've heard Lena from Sufficiently Advanced Lena and Angela from Literature Science Alliance. I know Angela for sure has told me to check this book out, so I've heard them, I think, both talk about it, but it seems really fun. So we have the folks in Mike's small New England town would say he's just your average everyday guy. And that's exactly how he likes it. Sure, the life he's chosen isn't much of a challenge to someone with these unique gifts, but he's content with his quiet and peaceful existence. And that is until an old friend presents him with an irresistible mystery, one that he's uniquely qualified to solve. We've got a team of DARPA scientists that has invented a device that folds dimensions, promising to make mankind's dreams of teleportation a reality. But evidence is mounting that this miraculous machine isn't quite what it seems, and that its creators are harboring a dangerous secret. This sounds like a really fun adult sci-fi thriller, and I'm very curious about this. Like, I have heard that it's kind of just addicting, and you just kind of have to, like, go through it real quick because it's just so exciting. So, yeah, I think this seems like it kind of reminds me somewhat of the premises of, like, Crouch's writing, also some, like, Michael Crichton, but also, like, I don't know, I feel like that premise kind of reminds me of some of James Rowland's books, and I really love, like, all of those things that I mentioned, so I'm really optimistic that I'll enjoy this. Next we have On the Edge of Gone by Corinne Duyvis. Not sure I'm pronouncing that right, but I heard Kat from Brews and Reviews talk about this book, and it had kind of been on my radar before that, but hearing her talk about it and really enjoy it made me, like, definitely want to pick it up, you know, sooner rather than later. We're in January 29, 2035. This is also YA Sci-Fi, by the way. I don't remember if I mentioned that, but this is the day that the comet is scheduled to hit. Denise and her mother and sister have been assigned to a temporary shelter near their hometown of Amsterdam to wait out the blast. But her sister's nowhere to be found, and Denise is worried they won't reach the shelter in time. But the last-minute encounter leads them to something better than a temporary shelter, a generation ship that's scheduled to leave Earth behind and colonize new worlds after the comet hits. But each passenger must have a practical skill to contribute. Since Denise is autistic, she fears that she'll never be allowed to stay. Can she obtain a spot before the ship takes flight? And when the future of the human race is at stake, whose lives matter most? So I think this has pretty good autism representation, but I think this is like a really hard-hitting book from what I remember hearing from assorted people. We've got the end of the world, it sounds like, kind of arriving with this comet. I mean, I don't know if it's like an extinction level event, but, you know, it's certainly not great. And I'm very curious about that generation ship. But like I said, I think the main impetus to pick it up right now is knowing that Kat really liked it. So I'm excited for it. So then we have Star Wars The High Republic Into the Dark by Claudia Gray, YA Sci-Fi, prior to events of Episode 1. So we have our Jedi Padawan, Reith, who loves adventure, reading about it, that is, not living it. So he's content to spend hours browsing the archives on Coruscant and dreams of being one of the greatest scholars of the Jedi Order. But his master, the well-respected and virtuous Jorah, has other plans. She's taken a post at Starlight Beacon, the Republic's shining new outpost on the edge of known space. As for Padawan, he must join her whether he likes the idea or not. So I guess they go there, but trouble in hyperspace leaves the ship and other nearby vessels stranded, with only an eerie, abandoned space station reachable for shelter. And the secrets hidden there will not only bring Reith to a crossroads, but if left unchecked, can plunge the entire galaxy into darkness. So, admittedly, I was kind of mixed on the first adult High Republic, Light of the Jedi. Could not think of that for a second there, but yeah, so I was kind of mixed on that. Like, it seemed really interesting. I was very intrigued by just this general time period, but the actual storytelling was a little bit kind of mixed for me. But I was still, you know, kind of interested enough to keep going, and this is a different author. I know I like Claudia Gray's Star Wars books in general, so I'm hoping that this will work for me better. But also, I'm very intrigued by an abandoned space station. Like, that seems promising. I think that's sort of something that I will enjoy, so I'm optimistic that I'll like this a little bit better than the previous one, but I have been kind of wanting to continue the High Republic series. Onwards, we have some YA urban fantasy, so this is Dark and Shallow Lies by Ginny Myers Sain. So this takes place in Louisiana, and we've got this tiny town where 17-year-old Gray spends her summers, and this is the self-proclaimed psychic capital of the world, and the place where her best friend disappeared 6 months earlier. So Gray starts to dig into the night that her friend went missing and begins to realize that everyone in town is hiding something. And a mysterious stranger emerges from the bayou, and I guess he has links to her friend and the town's bloody history. So Gray starts to realize that the past of this town is far more present and dangerous than she really understood. So suddenly she doesn't really know who to trust. In a town where secrets fester just below the surface like water rot, and where a murderer is on the loose, nobody can be presumed innocent, and the dark and shallow lies may just rip this town at heart. So, ooh, this is like an interesting texture to the book. Anyway, I always love urban fantasy, and I like that this is set in Louisiana. I think it'll be a really fun setting to really explore, and I don't know, I just feel like the bayou can be fun and maybe creepy at times. I don't know, like a water rot festering, like that seems maybe like we're getting into some horror type elements, but I think this one would be really good to read around this time of the year, so that's kind of what I'm hoping to do. So the other YA urban fantasy I have is The Witch Haven by Sasha Peyton Smith. So this is more historical, so we're in 1911 New York City, and we've got 17-year-old Frances, who spends her days as a seamstress mourning the mysterious death of her brother months prior. I guess everything changes when she's attacked and a man ends up dead at her feet. Her scissors in his neck, and she can't explain how they got there. So two nurses swoop in to inform her that she's deathly ill, and she's ordered to report to the sanitarium, which turns out is actually a school for witches. So she discovers the sisterhood she craves, but the headmistress warns her that magic is dangerous. She has no interest in the small safe magic of her school, as instead enchanted by a boy with magic who appears in her dreams and tells her he can teach her everything she's been wanting to learn that may bring her closer to discovering what happened to her brother. But then this attracts the attention of an ancient order's dangerous leader who wants magical control of Manhattan and will stop at nothing to have her by his side. So she's going to have to choose what matters most, justice for her brother or her growing feelings for this boy, or the safety of her city and the witches. So this sounds really exciting. Again, always love urban fantasy. I like that this is more of a historical setting. Also, we have clearly like a school for witches. Like, that sounds fun. Also, I like that it's disguised as a sanitarium. I feel like this is a good one to read around this time of the year. So hopefully I will be able to get to it. So then we have some YA fantasy. First is Tales from the Hinterland by Melissa Albert. So I've read the, the Hazelwood series and enjoyed them, but it was kind of like, I guess, YA urban fantasy, but we had like kind of made up fairy tales that were really like entering the real world. So this is just a collection of these fairy tales that, I don't know, I mean, it's like Journey into the Hinterland, a brutal and beautiful world where a girl spends a night with death, brides are read to a mysterious house in the trees, and an enchantress is killed twice and lives. So I liked the Hazelwood, and I feel like my favorite part of those books was the little like snippets of fairy tales that we get, and this is an entire book of those. So I'm really excited for this, and it's just like really beautiful. Oh, look, okay, so we've got that in the inside, and then we've got this like design work on the outside of that, so that's lovely. I feel like I'm gonna really love this, so can't wait to get to it. Next YA fantasy is Redemptor by Jordan Ifueko. So this is the sequel to Raybearer, which I read last year and loved. Yep, there it is right there. Our main character needs to appease the sinister spirits of the dead and anoint a council, so she has to descend into the underworld, a sacrifice to end all future atrocities. She's determined to survive, or at least that's what she tells her circle of friends. But basically we've got child spirits beginning to haunt her and demanding that she pay for the past sins of the Empire. We've got assassination attempts, the lives of her loved ones at stake, and a handsome new stranger, so she fears the pressure may consume her. So this is the final book in the duology. Really loved the first one. It had some wonderful friendship and like really fabulous bonds, really cool magic. It was just like, I was absolutely blown away by that, especially being a debut. So really want to see how this story continues, and I'm pretty sure I'm going to love this. Now we've got some adult fantasy. Like, dear God, how many books do I have? First one I'll talk about is Empire of the Vampire by Jay Kristoff. So this is the Barnes & Noble edition, so we've got like exclusive, oh my God, that almost fell on my face. We've got some artwork inside here, and that was like the big draw for me. I think this is told like Name of the Wind style, where this dude is recounting his life, which is something that works really well for me. So it's been 27 long years since the last sunrise. For nearly 3 decades, vampires have waged war against humanity, building their eternal empire even as they tear down our own. Now, only a few sparks of light endure in the sea of darkness. So we have Gabriel, who's a silver saint, a member of a holy brotherhood dedicated to defending realm and church from creatures of the night. But even the Silver Order could not stem the tide once daylight failed us, and now only Gabriel remains. Imprisoned by the very monsters he vowed to destroy, he's forced to tell his story. So that sounds really exciting. I do love a good vampire story. Again, I like this Name of the Wind type storytelling mechanism, I guess. I feel like this is perfect to read about around this time of the year, like some sort of like dark, I don't know, spooky vampire book. Like, that just seems like perfect for the fall. So hopefully this will be good. I mean, it is a chonker, so we shall see how this goes. Next we have The Bright and Breaking Sea by Chloe Neill. So I've read several books and several series by Chloe Neill before, but this is like just high fantasy instead of urban fantasy, but we've got some seafaring stuff. We have Kit, who is rescued as a foundling and raised in a home for talented girls, and she's worked hard to rise through the ranks of the Isle's Crown Command and become one of the few female captains in the fleet. Her ship is small, but she's fast, in part because of her magical affinity to the sea. But the waters become perilous when the Queen sends Kit on a special mission with a partner she never asked for. So Ryan may be a veteran of the Continental War, but Kit doesn't know him or his motives. She's dealt with one too many members of whatever the Beaumont is. But she has her orders, and the Queen has commanded that they journey into pirate territory and rescue a spy who's been gathering intelligence on this exiled emperor. Basically, our characters will have to learn to trust each other, or else the Isles will fall. So this sounds really exciting. Like I said, I really enjoy Chloe Neill's writing, and I'm curious to see how this, translates to high fantasy versus urban fantasy. I'm sure it'll be great, but also, I love that we've got magical affinity to the sea. That is very intriguing to me. And also, I just do enjoy a good seafaring adventure and pirates and whatnot, so I'm really excited for this one. Next, we have She Who Became the Sun by Shelley Parker Chan. So this is adult, historical fiction, fantasy. I guess it's marketed differently, but basically it's kind of like this Mulan dynamic where China is under harsh Mongol rule, and I guess the son of this family is given a fate of greatness, and then the daughter is given a fate of nothingness. Bandit attack orphans them, and the brother dies. So I guess she's desperate to escape her own fated death, and she uses her brother's identity to enter a monastery as a young male novice. So she kind of learns she's capable of doing whatever it takes to stay hidden from her fate and claim her brother's given destiny as her own. So I've heard amazing things about this. I'm really excited for it. I also like that we have this sort of Mulan dynamic. That's something that works really well for me in general. But I'm also just intrigued to kind of learn more about the historical inspirations behind this. I feel like I am in the mood for sort of historical fantasy right now, so this would be a good one to pick up pretty soon here. Alright, so last of the fantasy books, I think, is A Fate of Wrath and Flame by K.A. Tucker. So this is, I feel like this is like a portal fantasy, actually. So we have a gifted thief, Romeria, who has flourished from her days as a street kid, pilfering wallets to survive. Now she thrives, stealing jewels from the rich under the involuntary employ of New York City's most notorious crime boss. But when an enigmatic woman secures her services at Sword Point, she's plunged into a startling realm of opposing thrones, warring elven and elemental magic she cannot begin to fathom. Her quest is straightforward: to steal a stone from the sacred garden without anyone discovering her true identity. But the identity she's assumed is that of a captured princess, an enemy to this country after she poisoned their beloved king and queen on the day she was supposed to marry the prince. Her betrothed detests her with every grain of his handsome being. Unfortunately for Romeria, she's more valuable to him alive than dead, so he gives her a choice: life in a cell or an acquittal of all charges in exchange for her help exposing the growing plot against him. So she embraces this. Well, obviously she has no choice, really, so she kind of takes on this ruse to bring her far closer to the king than she anticipated, and this threatens more than her safety. As she digs into the sacred garden and ancient feud between the countries, she discovers monstrous truths that could spell ruin for all. So I really loved The Simple Wild by K.A. Tucker and have been kind of intrigued by her books, and this, being a fantasy romance type book, that seems like it'll be really great. Definitely seems like we'll have an enemies to lovers dynamic here. Then we have a couple of horror books. Both of them are YA horror. The first one is Small Town Monsters by Diana Rodriguez Wallach. So I have never heard of this, but was browsing Barnes & Noble, and they had this as the buy one, get one half off, and I looked over the premise and was like, that actually sounds really interesting. So our main character just wants to get out of this town, away from her embarrassing demonologist parents, not to mention the terrifying occult things lurking in their basement. We have another character, Maxwell, who just wants to fit in, but it's hard to enjoy parties with his friends when his mom is morphing into someone he doesn't recognize, someone scary, and slowly begins to suspect that the harmless self-help group she joined may be something more sinister. So they're up against the dark forces that extend far past their small coastal town and into the very heart of evil. So that sounds like a really fun horror book, and I don't remember what specifically this was own voices for. I mean, I guess Latinx representation, and I thought there was some sort of folklore element that I had seen on Goodreads that I'm now totally forgetting. But anyway, that sounds pretty fun and creepy, and I just am very interested in it. Next we have Small Favors by Erin A. Craig. So I read House of Salt and Sorrows by her I don't know, some amount of time ago and really enjoyed it. So oh no, what have I done? Oh God, that's sad. Okay, I've bent the sleeve apparently. So Ellery is waiting for something to happen. Life in isolated Amity Falls, surrounded by an impenetrable forest, has a predictable sameness. Her days are filled with tending to her family's beehives, chasing after her sisters, and dreaming of bigger things, while her twin Samuel is free to roam as he wishes. Early settlers fought off monstrous creatures in the woods, and whispers that the creatures exist still keep everyone from venturing too far. But some townsfolk go missing, and a heavy unease settles over the falls. And we've got some strange activities plaguing the town. As the seasons change, it's clear that something's terribly wrong. The creatures are real, and they're offering to fulfill the residents' deepest desires, however grand, for just a small favor. So, apparently, these trifling demands hide sinister intentions, and Ellery finds herself in a race against time to stop Amity Falls, her family, and the boy she loves from going up in flames. So this was, again, the Barnes & Noble exclusive edition. I don't remember what specifically was special about it. I don't know if it's like this coloring and jacket situation. I don't know. Anyway, I think this sounds like a fun YA horror. Like I said, I thought House of Salt and Stars was really great and like super atmospheric, and I'm definitely intrigued by this like creepy small town vibe situation and just what these creatures are and like what it is that they want. So I've heard really good things about this. Definitely want to read it soon. We're not done yet. So we've got some romance to get through. So I've apparently been in like a big romance mood lately because I have a huge stack of romance books. These are all adult romance. So the first one I'll talk about is Wait for It by Jenn McKinlay. So we have Annabelle, who's stuck in a dreary Boston winter and just wants nothing more to run away from her current life. She's not even 30, twice divorced, and has just dodged a marriage proposal from her ex. She's offered a dream job as a creative director at a cutting-edge graphic design firm in Phoenix and jumps at the opportunity to start over. So once she gets there, she's instantly intrigued by her anonymous landlord. I guess, based on the cranky handwritten notes she gets, she assumes that he's an old, rich curmudgeon. But she's shocked when she finally meets him, discovers that he's close to her age and uses a wheelchair. I guess he suffered a stroke a year ago, and while there's no physical reason for him not to recover, he's struggling to overcome the paralyzing fear that has kept him a prisoner in his own home. So she finds that she's really drawn to him, and she wonders if she and Nick might be able to help each other find the courage to embrace life, happiness, and true love. I'll be honest, one of the big draws for me was the fact that this takes place in Arizona, since that's where I'm from, so I'm really excited about that. But it also seems just like a really charming, sweet book, and I'm hoping that the romance will be fabulous. Next we have If the Shoe Fits by Julie Murphy. So this is an adult retelling of Cinderella. So we have Cindy, who loves shoes, and I guess she's a fashion-obsessed plus-size woman, but she can never find designer clothes that work on her body, but a special pair of shoes always fits just right. So she moves back in with her stepmother, who's the executive producer of the world's biggest reality dating show. When a slot on Before Midnight needs filling at the last minute, Cindy is thrust into the spotlight. Showcasing her killer shoe collection on network TV seems like a great way to jumpstart her career, and while she's at it, why not go on a few lavish dates with an eligible suitor? So being the first and only plus-size contestant on this show turns her into a viral sensation and a body-positive icon overnight. Even harder to believe, she can actually see herself falling for this Prince Charming. So basically, she's going to have to take a leap of faith and hope her heels and heart don't break in the process. So again, love a good fairy tale retelling. I think this is supposed to be like an entire series of adult retellings of like Disney stories and just like generally fairy tales. So that is something I'm really into, so hopefully this will be good. But I also like that we have this reality TV segment, and Cindy seems like a really fun character to follow, so hopefully this will be really cute and enjoyable. Next we have The Love Hypothesis by Ali Hazelwood, which has been exceedingly difficult to track down, let me tell you. I managed to find this online at Barnes & Noble, I think, before it was just like sold out completely, but anyway, so we have a third-year PhD candidate, Olive, who doesn't believe in lasting romantic relationships, but her best friend does, and that's what got her into this situation. So Olive is trying to convince her friend that she is dating and well on her way to a happily ever after. It's going to take more than hand-wavy Jedi mind tricks. It's going to take proof. So like any self-respecting biologist, she panics and kisses the first man she sees, who turns out to be this young hotshot professor who's kind of a dick. And that's why she's absolutely floored when he agrees to keep her charade a secret and be her fake boyfriend. But then we've got a big science conference that goes haywire and puts her career on the line, so he surprises her again with his unyielding support and even more unyielding six-pack abs. So I have heard nothing but great things about this, but I'm really intrigued by this because we have a lady in science, like, yes, I'm here for that, but, she's in a PhD program, like, I just finished my PhD, so that's something that, like, I feel like I'm going to connect with her on so many levels, but I'm super excited about this, and I really hope it'll be absolutely wonderful. Next, we have the Shoddy Set Up by Lillie Vale. I recently talked about this in my September releases video, but we've got high school sweethearts who are a golden couple until the day Milan broke Rita's heart. So now, 6 years later, she's turned her passion for furniture restoration into a career and has an almost perfect boyfriend. So the last thing she needs is for Milan to waltz back into her life, but that's just what happens when her well-meaning mother tries to step them up. But this time, he actually needs her business expertise, not her heart, to flip a hard-to-sell house for his realty agency. She agrees to help, but she wants to prove that she's over him and signs her and her boyfriend up for this matchmaking site, famous for its success stories and trustworthy enough to convince everyone that they're the new and improved couple. But turns out the match that she gets from this website is actually her ex, and I don't know, it seems really cute. But also, I like that we have our cute little dogs on the cover, but the big draw for me here with this particular romance is this, like, HD TV element. Like, that is something I really enjoy, and I'm really hoping that that'll be super fun to read about. But it seems like a really interesting story. I like that we have a matchmaking website, so hopefully it'll be really fun. Next, we have The Charm Offensive by Alison Cochrane, also released this month, and I talked about it in my September releases video. But we have a reality dating show. So we have one character who is, I think, the producer of this reality dating show. He always scripts the perfect love story for his contestants, even as his own love life crashes and burns. But the show, I guess, then casts a disgraced tech wonderkin, Charlie, as its star. So he's far from the romantic Prince Charming that they expect. He doesn't believe in true love and agreed only to appear on the show as a last-ditch effort to rehabilitate his image. He's kind of a mess in front of the cameras and has no clue how to date these women on national TV. So Dev fights to get Charlie to connect with the contestants, and they begin to open up to each other and kind of realize that they actually have better chemistry together than with any of the other contestants. So this seems really cute. I like that there's this reality dating element, but this seems like a really sweet male-male romance, and I've heard really great things about it. And I have a couple of K. Tucker books. Again, I was kind of just wanting to check out more of her books. So we have Say You Still Love Me. Piper, who's a 29-year-old VP at her dad's multi-billion-dollar real estate development firm and living with her two best friends in a swanky downtown penthouse. But on the other hand, you know, she has to constantly prove her worth in a male-dominated world. Things get more complicated for her when she runs into Kyle, who's the handsome new security guard at this company, and coincidentally, the first love of her life. I guess they were summer camp counselors together and come from wildly different backgrounds. Also, apparently, he doesn't remember her name. So even though she may be a high-powered businesswoman, she realizes that her schoolgirl crush is not only alive, but stronger than ever. And what's more, despite his distant attitude, she's convinced their reunion isn't at all by accident, and that her feelings for her still run deep, and she's determined to make him admit them, no matter the consequences. Again, really love The Simple Wild, and have been wanting to check out more of K. Tucker's books. I've heard more mixed things about this, but I'm really intrigued by it still. Like, I like that, you know, she is working in a real estate development firm, and I like that we've got this summer camp element. Like, I think those two settings will be really exciting. So hopefully this one will be enjoyable. Now, the other K. Tucker one is Until It Fades, and this seems, I think I remember the reviews are a little bit more mixed, and it seems like it's just like very sugary sweet, but like, hey, sometimes we all need that. So we have a 24-year-old truck stop waitress and single mother, Catherine, who has simple goals. She wants to give her 5-year-old daughter a happy life and to never again be the talk of the town of this, like, really small town. So one foggy night on a lonely road back from another failed date, she saves a man's life. But it's not until after the police arrive that she realizes that she rescued a hockey icon and media darling. She's already had her 15 minutes of fame and really doesn't want her to have her past dragged into the spotlight, especially on a national stage. So she hides her identity. Then this man she saves ends up standing on her doorstep, desperate to thank her. There's an immediate connection with them, and it's more electric than the bond of two people who endured a traumatic event. It's something neither of them expected, something that Catherine's not sure if she can handle, and it's something that she's afraid to trust. So I don't know. I mean, it says a modern-day Cinderella story that will make you hope again. Like I said, I mean, like, sometimes you just need a really good, feel-good story. Next, I have The Honeydew List by Christina Lauren. This is another one where I've really enjoyed their writing, and again, I've heard much more mixed things about this particular book, but I still kind of want to try it out. Again, I think this has some sort of, like, home development aspect. Yeah, here we go. Carrie has worked for home remodeling and design gurus Melissa and Rusty for a decade. She's a country girl at heart, and she started in their first store at 16 and helped them build an empire. With a new show and a book about to launch, this couple are on the verge of superstardom, but there's only one problem. They can't stand each other. So we have James, who's an MIT graduate and engineering genius, was originally hired as a structural engineer, but the job isn't what he thought it would be. Basically, he and Carrie have to go on book tour with this couple and kind of keep things from falling apart. But neither of them can really quit because Carrie needs health insurance as James, and James has been promised the role of a lifetime if he can just keep the couple on track for a few more weeks. So they go road tripping up the West Coast and vow to basically keep playing it along, and then I think they maybe fall for each other. But yeah, I think Christina Lauren's writing is really funny and often just like really engaging, and I've liked everything that I've read. I mean, like some of them I've loved more than others, but still like enjoyable enough. Also, like apparently we're going real strong here with like this home remodeling situation, but that is something that I really enjoy, and I'm just curious to check this one out. Okay, finally, we are here. Oh my god, this has taken forever to film. Like, dear god, my throat is so like tired of talking. Anyway, okay, so last one. How to Fail at Flirting by Denise Williams. So, okay, we have a professor whose flailing department lands on the university's chopping block, and so her friends convince her to shed her frumpy cardigan for an evening out on the town. For one night, her focus will stray from her demanding job, and she'll tackle a new kind of to-do list. When she meets a charming stranger in town on business, he presents the perfect opportunity to check off items on her list. Let the guy buy her a drink, check. Try something new, check. A no-strings-attached hookup, check. Almost. I guess Jake makes her laugh and challenges her to rebuild her confidence, which was left toppled by her abusive ex. Soon she's flirting with the chance of a more serious romantic relationship, except nothing can be that easy. I guess the complicated strings attached to her dating this guy may destroy her career. So she has two options. She can return to her old life and keep her professional reputation, or she can flirt with the unknown and stay with the person who makes her feel like she's finally living again. So Denise Williams has a book coming out fairly soon, I think. This came out, I think, last December, and I had kind of had my eye on it and then honestly, like, forgot about it. But with this new book coming out, I was like, oh yeah, that sounds interesting, and then realized that I had, in fact, wanted to read this one, so that should be interesting. But I do like that we have this sort of academic environment, and we have, you know, this professor. I think I know what the problem is with this dude, but I won't say it in case that's, you know, spoilery. I've just been kind of wanting to read more romance and explore other romance authors, so I'm very curious about this one. Hopefully it'll be really good, and then hopefully I can, you know, if I enjoy this, then we've got that new one coming up fairly soon. Again, I don't know exactly when that is, but relatively soon. Let me know in the comments if you've read any of these books or think you might pick them up. I do have a Discord channel, and if you want to join that, the link's in the description below. I hope you're all having an excellent day and are reading something awesome. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to give it a big thumbs up, as that would certainly help me out. But with that, I'm going to definitely wrap it up here and see you in the next one.